Okay, not a whole lot in the paper today, so I think I will talk about this. Greetings, our Frederick Riddle here, speaking to you from Christian News and Views. This is episode 33, and there's not a whole lot in the paper today, so I'm looking actually at the letters to the editors, or to the editor. Um, and there's a letter here that I think speaks of a problem that exists that liberals don't realize it's a problem, but it is. And I've entitled this Following Their Own Advice. Now, here's the news. A letter to the editor by an obvious liberal gives advice to learn facts and speak out. So listen to this. Editor, it is important in these times for citizens to learn facts and speak out. Even the most ardent supporters of the incoming administration admit their leader often says things which are untrue. As it's been written, if you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. Dismissing facts and truth is one way authoritarian governments succeed and democracy fails. After Trump's first inauguration, presidential advisor Kellyanne Conway famously referred to Trump's inaccurate exaggeration of inauguration crowds as alternative facts. Despite what our own eyes and ears told us, she endorsed Trump's obvious lie. We all watched in horror on January 6, 2021, as the U.S. Capitol was raided by a Trump-inspired mob. Trump and his surrogates insisted the protests were peaceful despite what was evident in plain view. Trump continues to lie about this having won the 2020 election despite having lost over 60 election lawsuits. Despite these facts, some Republicans have refused to acknowledge Biden won. Now that grim details are emerging regarding Trump's clearly unqualified cabinet selections, it's important everyday citizens pay attention and raise their voices in boisterous opposition. Now, this is so loaded with untruth. I had to say something about it. The opening paragraph actually is, I agree with. It's important in these times for citizens to learn facts and speak out. Unfortunately, the writer didn't follow his own advice. And what he's writing about could have been written by somebody working for the Democratic National Committee or something of that nature. Some of the things he says here, he doesn't cite any evidence. Like he says here, admit their leader often says things which are untrue. I don't know of any ardent supporter of Trump who would even make that kind of a statement. So I don't know who he's talking about, and he doesn't tell us who he's talking about. So I regard that statement as an untrue statement. Does Trump exaggerate? Yes, but exaggeration is not a lie. It's exaggeration. Does Trump, there's another word, it comes out of the real estate market in New York. Usually I've used it in the past, and I can't even think of it right now. But it's another word for exaggeration. It's taken a true statement and exaggerated it. And sometimes it's used as it's obvious. It's meant to be obvious. It's meant to stir conversation. It's meant to irritate. It's meant to facilitate conversation, get people upset, whatever the purpose of that is. And it's apparently common in New York real estate market. Not being from New York, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard. But the thing is, he's talking about an outright lie. And I'll get to the definition of what a lie is in a minute. But he does describe the liberal situation. If you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed, usually by the person telling it. And that is a problem that the liberal liberal media, liberal politicians, liberals like this person, they've told the lie or read the lie often enough that they have come to believe it to be true. So I want to give you I'm actually into my opinion already, because it is good advice he's giving. It's just that he's not following it. Um, One of the things he's doing is he continues to spout the lies that have been told about Trump, lies that have been debunked. Some of these things that are they tell us, oh, Trump said this, and I've demonstrated this in previous posts. Trump will say something here and say something over here, and what the media does is they take this and they bring them together, and now they say this is what he said, which is totally different than what he did say. This is one over here, may have been to the same crowd, but may have been a different topic than this one. But when he merges it, it makes it look like he is saying something to a particular issue. And that's an absolute lie. That is a lie foisted upon the people by the media. I've seen them do it. There have been times I've actually watched speeches by Trump, and they would make this draw these two together and make a statement that, well, this is what he said. No, it was not. It was not what he said at all. He said this and he said this, but he did not say this. And so that is something that they have done over and over again. I guess they forget that Americans do have access to computers and to the internet, and they can research things on their own if they want to. And so, yes, find out the facts, but you might also want to know who it is you're getting your facts from. So, he also called Trump's belief that the 2020 election was stolen. He calls that a lie. Well, first of all, just because someone believes something that is not supported by apparent facts doesn't make that belief a lie. It may make it wrong, but it doesn't make it a lie. Now, at the very beginning, in 2020, late 2020, early 21, there weren't any facts that were being accepted into the courtroom that they were there, but they simply were not being looked at by the courts. So in the early stages there weren't much in the way of facts that we knew about. Well, those of us who had followed the election and saw it, we did see some things that didn't make sense to us. And so right from the beginning, there was some question marks about this election, 2020 election. And those question marks didn't go away. They could deny them, but denying them doesn't mean they didn't happen. And so as time has gone by, we've got a different picture. So in the case of the 2020 election, there was always evidence supporting the belief that it was stolen. There was some evidence. And as time has gone by, that evidence has grown. The problem wasn't that there wasn't any evidence, but that the courts refused to hear the evidence. That's a big difference from not having evidence and not listening to it. Why the judges refused it? And they didn't listen to the evidence at all. They didn't allow it to, as I remember it, they didn't even listen to the evidence to determine whether it should be allowed or not. Now, this was in the early days, and these were lower court judges. As time has gone by, this evidence has slowly very slowly, in fact, this evidence has been surfacing and getting into courts of law. And also, governments, while they still deny certain things, have also gone about and cleaned things up a bit. And plus, other people have instituted practices to monitor the government elections and so forth. So this last election we had was probably the cleanest one we've had in years. Still may have been attempts at defrauding the public, but they were spotted, or they were not to the degree that they had to be to um, defeat Trump. So the question is this, though. Let's say that all the evidence eventually gets into the courts, and they finally decide, yes, the 2020 election was actually stolen. Well, what will happen? Will it make a difference? Not really. The last 4 years of Biden will not disappear, nor the heartache and pain of living through those years. The difference will primarily be in history. Now, they might be able to go after other people if they can find it and take their evidence and apply it to individuals, and then either in lawsuits like where they sue somebody, or somebody gets arrested and tried and convicted for doing some of this, like padding the votes and stuff like that. But that's after the fact. If the election was stolen, and personally, I think there's evidence that certainly is worthy of examination, that it was. But whether or not, if it was stolen, proving that it was stolen will not change the fact that it was stolen. It will not change the fact of Biden's, like I said, in the past 4 years of living under it. We have seen a respected nation. Trump was not liked by Europeans, but he was respected. Liberals will tell you differently, but he was respected. And they were forced to make changes. He forced changes in NATO. He forced changes in treaties. He forced different things to be made those changes were best for our country. And by the way, some of those changes, either he couldn't or Biden just didn't try to undermine them. And so some benefit of that still went through even under Biden. But Biden did other things in which undermined what Trump had done. The economy that Trump had created. Even COVID, while it sunk that last year or so of Trump's economic revival that was going on, when the COVID thing came to a close, and it came to a close, well, actually before that year was over, the economy kicked into gear almost immediately. Why? Because he had created, or maybe I shouldn't say created, he had without using the word created, it's hard to say it, but that engine was strong and healthy, and it was able to overcome all the things that had been done on COVID. By the way, there were a lot of lies out there during that time by liberals that really pressed down on the economy and the whole nation as a whole. Here in Florida, our governor saw what was going on and he got out of that. Trump eventually saw what was going on and he tried to get out of it, but on the national level it was a little bit higher because all the different things going in play there. But he eventually actually started moving away from those lies too. They weren't his lies, they were lies being told to him by others. And so the thing is that the engine, the economic engine that he was primarily responsible for was still strong. And when the COVID crisis, if you want to call it that, began to pass, that engine kicked in. And by the time Biden took over, the economy was starting to purr again. But then the Bidenomics took place and we are where we are. So that is a statement there about the 2020 election. believing the whole point is that Trump and millions of Americans believe the 2020 election was corrupt and stolen. Believing that to be true does not make them a liar. At one time, it looked like, well, maybe they were wrong. Maybe we were wrong. But the facts are starting to come forward. And I've been following this for a while. And there are people out there a lot smarter than me who have found facts. And they've put them out there. But the courts kept fighting them. And then you had the big corporations launching lawsuits and stuff like this. And very slowly, the truth has been coming out. And now it looks more and more like those millions of Americans, including Trump, who believe the 2020 election was stolen, are probably right. But like I said, historically, it makes a difference. In fact of daily life, it doesn't. Now, here's a statement told by the writer that you might wonder about. He called the riot on January 6, 2021, a Trump-inspired mob. Now, I want to remind you of something. I happen to be watching, I was at home watching the Trump speech, but I also watched it afterwards too, especially when they started doing timelines and stuff like that. So Trump was talking not to a mob, but he was talking at the White House, and he was making a speech to a lot of people who were gathered there, who were they were the Trump ardent supporters, if you will. At the time that he was speaking to them, this mob, the riot actually that took place, was taking place at the same time. It started, I think, I don't have the facts in front of me, but I believe that was about halfway through his speech. Now, the timeline, people actually figured out the timeline, that for the people to travel by foot from where Trump was talking to get to where the riot was taking place, that ruled them out. A person couldn't have gotten from one to the other in time to initiate, to inspire that mob, that riot. And by the way, I appreciate the fact that the writer never once used the word insurrection. I think that people know by now that it was not an insurrection. You look up the word insurrection and then you look at what happened. Two different things. A riot was definitely a riot. And those people who inspired the riot, should be arrested and go to jail. Instead of, they've been arresting people who simply were there. A woman got killed going through a window, unarmed. She was murdered. She was killed. No charges were ever brought against the policeman who didn't pull the trigger. And so we don't know why. We don't know. We've heard he was afraid of his life, but how can you be afraid of your life of somebody coming through a window, unarmed, and you've got weapons? How is it that you were in danger in any way, shape, or form? These are legitimate questions which I've never heard answered, and I don't know that they can answer them. But the thing is this: it was not an insurrection; it was a mob action. It was a riot. A riot that was taking place as Trump was across the way there at the White House talking, making a speech to his people, and the rioters were inspired by some of these other outfits that were far to the right or even far to the left. It gets to the point when you get far either way, it's hard to, their ideology might be different, but what their actions are very similar. So we don't, so the thing there is that this writer is making a statement here that is just simply can't be true. Time-wise, everything was not true. There were people who were there protesting the vote, and they got caught up in this. But Trump never inspired it. There's no evidence. And they even tried impeaching him based on that idea, and that fell through. So, but basically the thing is this, it's you want to call this a lie. I'm not going to call the writer a liar because he's saying something he's already heard. He's repeating something that's untrue, and he's repeating something that really does not compute, if you will. It does not make that writer a liar. No, it simply makes him wrong. A liar, now here it is. What is a liar? A liar is a person who knows the truth and purposely tells something else. So, this man this writer is implying that Trump knew he lost. Well, no, he didn't. The facts that he saw, that the rest of us saw, all said differently. We looked at it. We looked at the facts. We looked at the numbers and how they changed rather quickly, within minutes. It just did not compute to what was going on. There was something wrong. And we all saw that to some degree or other. So we did not know this truth, basically, about the 2020 that this writer is talking about. We do a different truth, a truth that our own eyes and ears were telling us. So, no, a liar is a person who knows the truth and purposely tells something else. That's why I'm not calling this writer a liar. I don't think he knows the truth. And therefore, he's wrong, but he's not a liar. Now, unfortunately, liberals have a different understanding of lying. To them, if you say something or believe something contrary to what they believe, then you are lying. So here's my word of advice to this writer and others like him. Take your own advice. Learn what constitutes a lie and learn the facts before you speak out. The world would be a better place if you do that. Now, that's my opinion, and obviously he probably won't agree with that one bit, nor will any other liberal. But that's the thing. We live in a country where you're free to express your opinion, and you'll notice I put my opinions different from the facts. Yeah, here's the facts of what happened. Here's my opinion. You see, the thing of facts are your own personal bias, your own views, what you see and hear will form how you interpret those facts. That writer saw something and he interpreted it one way. I saw something, interpreted it a different way. Which one is true? Well, then you have to really look at the facts. And when I look at the facts, they support the idea that at the very least, there should be an investigation as to what happened in that election so that corrections can be made. That's, by the way, is my understanding, one of the jobs of Congress, is to examine things. Instead of trying to prove that Trump inspired a mob action like the January 6th committee tried to do, if they had spent all that money and time, that's your money, your tax money, and their time is also your tax money because you're paying for them to be there. If they had used all that to literally dig into the facts and find out what happened, why did things go bad in that election? Why were the numbers different? Why are there different facts out there that are being shoved off and trying to be shoved under the rug? Why are those out there? What caused them? Instead, they just ignored them, poo-pooed them, they tried to cover them up. Well, that's not their job. Their job is to uncover and find out what happened. And then if something happened that they can correct, pass legislation to enable that correction. That's why we elect them. That's what makes a representative government such a powerful government. Because when it works right, and they actually are representing the people who elected them and the people they serve, They're elected by their own state people, but they are serving the nation. They need, that's something that's what they're there for, to represent us and to get to the truth. And if that truth hurts, fine. Do something about it. If it's a weakness here, treat it. Take care of it. And that's my opinion, folks. Write your own comments on it. I don't know that anything can be said about it that hasn't already been said, but feel free to comment. Now that's my opinion. That's today's news and views. And I will see you in the next episode. Oh, by the way, don't forget that down below here, if you're not subscribed to this channel, go right ahead and subscribe. If you enjoy my views about the news that we face every day, hey, why not get it directly delivered to your channel? Or follow me and have it delivered to your email, or do both. And by the way, when you do that, it helps me, encourages me, yes, but it also helps me be a better, I'm still learning this, folks. This is all brand new territory for me, and I'm still learning, and you are a process of me learning. You have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.